information that would be helpful, because nobody can help you with publishing. I got in touch with a guy named Hal Higdon, who is the founding father of Runners Magazine, and he said to me, "Don, don't bother with publishing companies." And I said, "Really, that's your advice?" He's written 30 books. He's the most published author on running in America, and that's his advice. He said, just self-publish. And so I was about to do that when our good friend Sharon Meyer called me and said, "Send this thing to Pete Clark." And I said, "Pete Clark doesn't want my book." And she said, "You send it to him." So you don't argue with Sharon Meyer if you know Sharon. And so I sent it to Pete. He got it at about 10 o'clock at night, and at 3 in the morning he was done reading it, and he wanted to publish it. And so we went through the process of getting published, which I think the second time through, if I ever wrote another book, I think it would be fun. But the first time through, it's the cover design, it's the layout, it's all this other stuff that you have to do. And so, you know, getting this thing put together in a package was pretty challenging and pretty difficult. But in the end, what a great feeling to have a book with your name on the cover and this great story included in the pages in between. So it came out 14 months ago, and I have to say I was pretty apprehensive that people outside of my family were going to read this, because my family loved this. My mom called me up and cried. She actually had to have a drink so she could calm down after reading it. She was that excited. And she's 87 now, I guess. So, I mean, we got good reviews. People started to go on Amazon and say nice things about it, and it's been really a positive experience. I was, one of the things I worried about is I didn't want people to think this is a brag book, because sometimes coaches do that. They have a great team and they want to write about it, tell everybody what a great team it was. Sometimes coaches want to tell everybody what a great coach they are, and I really was a little apprehensive about that. I didn't want anybody to think that that's what I was all about. I just knew that this was a story that had a message, and I knew it was a story that had lessons, and I knew that people would maybe think about some of the things that were in here. That was my greatest hope, and as I said, I wrote it for myself and my wife and my daughter, but I also wrote it for the idiot boys on my team who spend their days looking at their cell phones, and they're locked in like this, and I wanted them to read an actual book, and so that was sort of my goal, and I wanted to write it for the alumni guys and the guys on the team, and then it sort of escaped out there, and it got out to other people on other teams, and coaches and teachers and book clubs of ladies that have never run a step in their life. And I'm doing a couple more book clubs this week and next week, and so it's been a real adventure, and the fact that people have said such good things about this. I'm still okay on time, right? Okay. I don't want to run over, but I got a couple more things here. For me, the lesson in this book is, well, there's a couple of them. Number one, giving people a chance, and the key word there is giving everyone a chance. It's easy to be the guy who says, yeah, I give everybody a chance. Everybody gets a fair chance in my class. Everybody gets a fair chance on my team. But, you know, when you say everybody, you have to mean everybody. You have to mean the Scott Longleys of the world, get a chance. And that's where it gets tricky, to give everybody a chance. I learned the importance of family, that if we're lucky, we have a family that we're born into, but if we're not, sometimes we find substitutes, and sometimes that's a class that's a teacher, sometimes that's a coach, sometimes that is a team. And I hear all these interviews with people who say, well, our team is like a family. And you know, sometimes that's a lie, because people have been conditioned just to say that, it's the thing to say. But a lot of times, it's really true. And I think some of you have probably been on a team like that, where it really did feel like a family. And certainly in '85, we were truly a family. And so, you know, I knew that before '85, but I think it's never been more true. I know that it's never been more true than it was for '85 with Scott. And then I learned the importance of kindness, which coaches seldom talk about the value of kindness, but everyone appreciates kindness, and kids love it when coaches are kind to them. But you can overdo that, so you have to balance that out with honesty. So, you know, that's always been a challenge for me. I want to be kind, but I need to be honest. And so I learned this season that Scott Longley required a lot of kindness, not too much honesty. I probably could have been more honest with him when he told me about the 6-foot pizza that he carried for 10 miles. Probably could have took him up on that one, but he needed kindness. He didn't need, I think life gave him enough honesty. The guys on my team right now, you know, they get some kindness from me, but they're a group of guys that that need some honesty. And so I try to be honest with those guys. And so it's a real balance. I learned great patience from Scott. And I taught 31 years of 8th grade social studies. And if you're not patient, you wouldn't survive 10 minutes in that environment. So I was already a pretty patient person, but I learned great patience from Scott. And I learned the value of acceptance, that it's so important to accept people. We all like to work with people who are like us. I had a fellow teacher who used to say, I wish they'd give me the smart kids, because I do really well with the smart kids. And he did. But that's not life. You don't always get to handpick the people you work with. Well, I do pretty darn well with the talented kids too. But I just can't say that, give me all the talented kids and the rest of them can go away. So, the whole idea of inclusion and acceptance was important. People have asked me, what did the guys on the 85 team learn? And my answer is always, I don't know. They were teenage boys. God only knows what they learned. I had thousands of kids in my classes and I gave them thousands of tests, and asked me if I really ever evaluated what they learned. I have no idea. There's some guys that ran on the team in the room here. Ask them what they learned. They might be able to tell you, because some of them have been out of our program for 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years, and they might know. But ask a kid that's on the team right now, what have they learned? They will struggle for an answer. So I don't know that anybody would have given you a good answer back in 1985, but I can tell you this, that they learned a lot. They learned that they had an unforgettable season, and I think that most of what they learned fell in the category of appreciate what you have. And I think that was the most important lesson, and I think that I saw it every day, that guys were more appreciative of me. I felt appreciated. I know their parents felt appreciated. Their teammates felt appreciated. They appreciated our sport. They appreciated our time together. They appreciated greasy cheeseburgers sitting in a McDonald's next to guys who hadn't showered and were still soaking wet from the race. And it didn't matter, because they appreciated the fact that they're sitting there eating a cheeseburger surrounded by their good friends. So there was a lot to appreciate that season, and I saw it every day. And because we had this daily reminder with us. And it reminds me of every Thanksgiving I see these news stories where they take kids from the suburbs and they take them into the inner city someplace, and they have them stand there and put mashed potatoes on the plate of some homeless person. And I think it's really an interesting activity that these kids go home to the suburbs later on and think, gee, I'm glad for what I have. I should appreciate what I have. And I always think, you know what? That homeless guy could probably put the mashed potatoes on his own plate. But I think it's a really healthy thing for people to see other people in other situations. And we had that with Scott. For 3 months, we had our own homeless person right there with us. And we didn't give him mashed potatoes, but we gave him all kinds of other tasty snacks and cheeseburgers and shakes and all that other good stuff that we fed him. And that was our contribution to Scott. It was one of those things where we got to see the world through the eyes of Scott Longley. And I mentioned in the book the Pygmalion effect. I think Scott was a lot like Pinocchio, the character carved out of a block of wood who wanted to be a real boy. That was Scott. He wanted to be a real runner. He wanted to be on a real team. He wanted to have a real coach. And I think we gave him those things. We weren't able to give him a real family, but I think for a while he probably felt that he had a real family. And there were other people in the community that I think contributed to making him feel that at least for a short while he had a family of his very own. And I think that was just something I still feel good about to this day. So how did this all happen? I'm not quite sure. How is it possible all these things happen at the same time, during the same season? Why did these things seem to fit in? All the pieces fit together. Was it divine intervention? I just don't think it was the hand of God. Was it fate? No, I kind of doubt that it was fated to happen. Was it karma? Yeah, I kind of think it was. I think we have a case here where we did something really nice for somebody less fortunate than us, and we got paid back. We got a huge payback at the end of this thing. And even if we wouldn't have, even if we finished second or third or 10th or 12th, I think we still got a payback. We would have gotten the payback of seeing this kid every day come to practice and feel good about himself. So yeah, karma, absolutely. Problem is that if we finished second or third, I wouldn't have written this book. So I'm kind of glad we ended up winning the darn thing on that day. Was it luck? Absolutely. We were so lucky that we were together, all these guys in one time, at one place, all together. Our lives just intersected through some strange reason for that 3-month period in the fall of 1985, and we end up with this incredible story. And the last thing is, you know, my view on this, how does this really happen? I think that it really came down to one word: willpower. Or is it 2 words, Beth? Willpower. It was a group of guys who willed this to happen. We were determined that we were going to write our own ending. We knew we had a story here, and we knew that we had a chance to write the ending to this really great story. And everybody on the bus, I think, was fully aware of that. I don't remember anybody quite saying it until afterwards, but we were all thinking the exact same thing, that we needed to send our friend home with a state medal. We needed to put an ending on this thing, and there was just no other ending that we could envision. And at the very start of the season, I think we probably had one kid on the team who thought that we could win a state title, because he was the kid who thought we could do everything, and you couldn't talk him out of it. But by mid-season, we started to believe that maybe this would happen. And by the time we made that bus ride to Madison, good luck finding